All right, welcome to
The second episode
second
of
episode
Focus and
of
Fulfilled.
our Focus and Fulfilled podcast with the Busy Boss Mamas. I'm Stephanie Mitchell.
I'm Crystal Borgeson.
We are sisters, moms of
and
six,
business partners,
homeschooling moms of six, and this is our second episode. We're excited to get this podcast going, as imperfect as it may be. And speaking of imperfect, today we wanted to talk about perfection, because our whole thing with our Busy Boss Mama movement is to help moms feel more productive, satisfied, purposeful, and perfection sabotages all of that.
Yeah, I mean, perfection, I heard one time described as like, it's just pride. You have this idea that it has to be presented in this one way, and it must be done that way, or it is not done right.
That is a good perspective. That's interesting. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, she'll think about it.
Yeah, I'll think about it, because
I already did think about it. So
I'm a major thinker person. Like, oh, I have to really just make time to think about that.
Yes,
that is a good thought. And I think perfectionism is like, it's a disease, I swear. And even more so with our time, because we live in this age of insane social media now, where we get stuck in, the scroll of Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest, and
it's fake and looks perfect.
I think that we have this idea when because of how far technology has come, like, earlier in Facebook days or whatever, you just like, you could write a post about your thoughts or this or what that, and sure, you could like paint a fake picture with what you said or the pictures you posted. But now with like the reels and the videos, it's like you're really in someone's life.
Let me give you a hint of exactly what that is, though. Is now that we've been like in the industry with these types of people for a long time, it's all fake. Like, they pick up their camera and set it up and jog by, or put their post there, and they make sure their hair's just right and they have the right stare, and it's like they're modeling for themselves at home. It's fake. Yeah. Just so you're aware, the Instagram where it's like supposed to be real life, it's fake.
Yeah.
It's fake life. Yeah. And a lot of moms, like, I don't know if anybody's listened to Christina Kuzmic. She's a motivational speaker. She's a mom, but like, even
doesn't she have like a name like that she goes by?
I think she does. She's gone viral with some of her like drinking wine moms in her conversations. She's got curly hair. I think she's Lithuanian. I don't know. She's popular. People would recognize her. I can't remember her like
internet name,
her brand name.
Yeah.
But she even said, like, she even showed a video one time of like her kitchen looking perfect where she's shooting all her videos, and then she pans around.
That's so cool.
And it's like,
wow, that looks like my kitchen.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like they just gotten done with dinner or something. And she'd sent the kids outside, scrub the wall behind me, slam the pots and pans into the sink.
Totally. I mean, we do that because we post stuff on Facebook, and I've done loads of videos, and I really do like clean up the background, a corner or whatever. And, right now I have my background blurred. I mean, some people will just be listening to this, but not because, right now I'm in my bedroom and it's actually clean, but like my bed's behind me. It's weird. So, but the point of the matter is that we get sucked into this social media life, and also not even just on social media. I think that most people, I don't know. I mean, am I the only one that wishes I could be a fly on the wall in other people's houses and see, like, is everybody's life like does anybody have a shit show like mine sometimes?
Yes, they do. And that is where, sorry, there's a spider on the window outside right in front of me. But that's where people get caught up is they're like, well, no, it's got to be done in this perfect way. Or like, school charts and chore charts and things like that. And they're like, well, no, we've got to have these chore charts. And it can't just be something where I wrote it down. I need to take the time to sit down and plan it out and make it Pinterest perfect. It needs to look like Pinterest, or I need to buy it. Or Steph and I, before we were started this episode, we were talking about, like, I have friends who, like, they see a cute Pinterest thing and like 5 minutes later, literally they'll be like, oh, I found this thing, I need to run and pick it up. And they come home and they just redo this DIY thing. And that is not me. I'm like, I need to think about it, and I need to find out if I can use a certain kind of paint, and if I have to sand it, and if I need to do all these things, because you got to do it right. If you're going to do it, you got to do it right the first time, which has some merit to it, but it doesn't.
But you spent all that time thinking about it, and your friend has the dang thing done. So now she has this cute whatever thing she made in her house, and you're still thinking about
exactly
paint to use. I know, that's totally me too.
You should do the job right, but you don't spend 50 hours looking to see if it's going to be done perfectly, because it's never going to be perfect. And
it isn't. And here's the thing is, like, people who are perfectionists, when they do something, yes, it's beautiful and perfect, and things look great because they really get done well. And so
sometimes, but a lot of times they don't get anything done.
Either, yeah, or they don't get done. But a lot of people who aren't perfectionists then look at that, and especially moms, we're so good at this. We look at somebody's stuff and we're like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful and amazing, and I suck. Like, I suck. I'm a total failure. Like, I could never do that, or my, whatever. But what we don't see, and I know people who suffer from perfectionism and they do things so well, but they're also struggling in other ways where it's like, yeah, okay, I'm a perfectionist and the things I do well, or the things that I do, look really good. But what you don't realize is I'm beating myself up because I don't get anything done, because I get so paralyzed to do things because they have to be perfect. And so some stuff just doesn't get done. So I guess the reality is that we're all struggling in one way or another. But
if you're a perfectionist mom, then you need to get accustomed to seeing what in the world you've done, and sometimes seeing, like, getting better at finding clarity on what stuff is worthy of your time and effort to make it perfect. Like,
yes,
is it worthy to make sure that you've got the exact right shape of sandwich that you cut for your kid? Maybe it is to you. I don't know. That's something you got to do. Or would you rather have a well cleaned up kitchen, or your kids' clothes looking better, or whatever it is you're going to spend your time doing? But you got to recognize that whatever you're exchanging your time for, that perfectionism, you're denying something else that you could do.
That's true. And I really like that thought of being intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Intentional about what you're allowing perfectionism with. So if you're a perfectionist, and we study the strengths a lot, Clifton strengths, which are amazing, and we'll talk about that a lot in different podcast episodes, but like,
yes,
some people in their strengths is going to be like, some people are have more of a tendency to be perfectionists. So it's okay to allow that sometimes, but you have to keep it in check. So I love what you said about, like, whether it's worthy of the time. So also kind of figuring out what's the purpose of whatever it is that you're doing? What's the goal? Like, Crystal mentioned chore charts a few minutes ago, and we have this really funny story that, I mean, I'll never forget, because I have wanted to get, like, chore charts together for a long time. Like, oh my gosh, I need chore charts. I need a system for my house, because then if I had this perfect system, then my kids would do their chores better, and everything would be way smoother, and I'd be way less stressed, and blah, 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 blah. And so I kept putting it off because to me, it felt like this huge project. Then I went to visit Crystal because we don't live in the same state. So I went to visit her, and I get to her house and I see this chicken scratch looking sloppy freaking
ripped out of a college ruled 50-cent notepad.
Yes, with like, she's got some of scribbles on it, and I was like, what in the world? And it's posted to her fridge, a chore list for her kids. And I was like, it was such an epiphany moment for me. I can't even explain it, because I saw that and I was like, that is so far from perfect. But you know what? Her chore chart gets used, and I have still sitting on the idea of a chore chart for the last how many ever years, because I want this pretty one, and I want it to look like the ladies on Pinterest and the moms that have all their have it all together and I don't, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, dang. And you know what? I went home from her house and I wrote lists for my kids, and they're on the fridge. And you know what? My fridge has stuff all over it. It's not clean, like perfectly perfect. Like, it's got chicken scratched, like trash schedule and kitchen cleaning schedule and all that on there. And now it gets done. Like, I use them, even though they're not perfect. And it forever, well, I mean, it didn't automatically change all my behaviors, right? That takes time. But I tell myself when I'm doing things, like, I think of that chore chart. I don't have to have it perfect. It doesn't have to be this amazing Pinterest looking thing. Like, perfectionism just kills productivity. And as we go through our day, no matter whether, we work outside of the home, work inside of the home, or, we're staying home with the kids and running juggling all the things at home all day. Like, if you end the day feeling like you weren't productive, it is the recipe for beat up at the end of the day. Don't you think?
Yeah, I do too. And that's why I think, especially, like, I don't want to push anybody away from their perfectionism, because some people like really thrive on it. You got to find the things that are worth it to you. I think that's like the main key out of the whole thing. Which stuff is worth your time to take the time to be perfect at it, especially when you're in carpool driving life. Steph's in carpool driving life, where she's just like, yesterday, she was in the car all day long, just driving people around. And what do you have time to get stuff there? By the time she gets home, you don't have time to have this beautiful 3-course meal for dinner. You don't have time to have, wipe all the cupboards down and get the kitchen done. And sometimes the kitchen, like, looks like you did all the dishes and you wiped the crumbs off the table. And that's kind of what it looks like. I know for me, nothing is sacred in the house except my dresser.
Except what?
Except my dresser. Nobody goes into my dresser.
True.
So that is the one place in this house that I have all my shirts lined up and folded just so, and it's never touched. But I mean, my office, I usually have all the papers on it, like, straightened perfectly, but the kids they're always in here. I mean, the dog's in here now.
Yeah.
The dog, I caught him in here on my desk. He's a golden doodle. He's a golden doodle. Why is he on the desk?
Like, laying on it?
Like, to get to the window.
Oh.
So
he's half on it.
Yeah. And
just, you guys, he's not, I don't know, me and her both got our golden doodles at the same time. They're from the same litter. And when they're puppies and they're little and they're cute, I was like buying a kennel. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what size of kennel do I get? Seriously. And I see people saying, like, get the large one. And then I look at, like, how big do golden doodles get? And it's like, between 40 and 60 pounds or something. So I'm like, the medium one must do, because the large one, it looks insanely big. Like, I swear a mastiff could fit in it. And I kid you not, these dogs are huge now that they're full grown. Like,
yeah, they're
way
not
bigger
like,
than I thought. Like they needed a large kennel. That was the whole point of my story. So anyway, her dog on her desk.
because they're tall. They're not like massive like a mastiff. They don't have like the bulk of a mastiff.
No, but they're tall.
But they're as tall as one.
Yeah, they
I
are.
would think it's about as tall. He's all legs. Agile is crap, but he's in the window, every one of the windows.
Yeah.
And so even my desk, I can't have the paper straight on it for the dog. That is the point, that like you have to be careful, especially as a perfectionist. Even this dog pulls out the toy bins. The kids ripped my labels off the toy bins because I wanted to have a picture of what went into each toy bin.
Yeah, you wanted to be perfect.
I want it to look good. They ripped those off. So just so you know.
So I love that. So
you gotta be discerning as to where perfectionism fits.
Right, where perfectionism fits.
The back seat of the van is not it.
Yes. So your time spending making the dumb chore chart or putting the pictures on the toy bins or whatever was wasted. Just like going in, I cannot stand it when I go down in the basement. That's where all my kids' toys are. I cannot stand toys being mixed together. It drives me nuts to look at it. I'm like, the Duplo shouldn't be with the little Legos. There shouldn't be blocks in with the Legos. There shouldn't be dolls in with, I can't stand it. And so I would go down there and spend a few hours with the kids, like, no, you need to clean it up right. Like the little blocks go in this one and the mag formers go here and the da-da-da goes here. And like we have the block, like you have the block, what are those things called? The bin shelf.
Oh, no, yeah.
Like the bookshelf that has the cubes in it, the cube things. Yeah, like, oh, the cubes, you have these toys, there's the blah, blah, blah. Well, then they ruin it again. So it's like, does it really matter? And what's the end goal, right? Like, is it going to change the functionality? So is the pretty chore chart changing the functionality of the chore chart working? Like my story, the chore charts weren't happening at all for years until I dropped the perfectionism. But your drawers will stay the same. So I'm working on that right now. Like, what sacred areas of my house are there that can bring joy to my heart that aren't going to continually get messed up all the time? Like,
my bins, I do have sorted still, because I found when I let them be blended together, then they dump all the bins out looking for a specific toy.
How do you get them to keep it all together? I guess I have a friend that does it too, and they do keep theirs together.
Because I only have 3 types of toys. And the little Legos aren't even allowed downstairs. We've got Duplos, planks, blocks, which the planks and blocks are both wooden toys, so they get mixed together quite a bit, and then cars. Yeah. And we have 2 car bins, so they each grab a car bin and throw all the cars in. And sometimes they do get mixed up, but that's why I separate them out. I mean, I wanted them to have their cute little labels and have like the trucks bin and then the cars bin and like the planks and then the food bin, but that wasn't working. So we did wood, little cars, Duplos, and the Legos have to stay in their bedrooms.
Yeah, that is a good solution.
Because I can't stand the little Legos downstairs.
Yeah.
And I vacuum them up. And the kids are like, you just vacuumed up 15 cents of Legos. I'm like,
I know. Yeah. And for me, like, we don't allow Legos upstairs.
Legos.
So for me, they're out of sight, out of mind, because I can't stand stepping on them upstairs. So I make them keep them downstairs, but that does mean that they're with all the other toys. So anyway, whatever. I feel like I'm rambling now, but and we want to keep our podcast episodes, like 20 minutes? I don't even know how long we've been talking, just because we know that you're busy. I mean, we could sit here and talk. I know.
We're just rambling now.
We almost called this podcast CSBS.
Yes. Because Chris and Steph are gonna bullshit on here.
Yeah, like we could forever. So anyway, but we should just get off. So that's the end of episode 2 of our Focus and Fulfill podcast. And we aren't sure what we're going to chat about next episode, but hopefully.
No. But in the meantime, make sure you're examining your life for your spots of perfectionism and whether or not that's a spot where you want to spend your time, because you only have so much time on this planet. You never get time back. Is that where you want to spend your time, in those perfectionism areas? Not that you should necessarily get rid of perfectionism by any means. I think there's something to making sure you do stuff right, but determining those places in which it is best for you to be spending time doing that. Like if you're a perfectionist and you're like, I got to scrub the floor and wash the walls and do all these things every single night, but I never do bedtime stories, and bedtime stories are something that are important to you, and then maybe the house perfectionism needs to stop and story time needs to start. And you have to make that decision and live that decision.
Make the decision and decide, like, listen, I think we forget that we have a choice on where we want to focus our attention and our energy. So if you feel like what Chris just said is like, okay, if story time is important and you realize like, oh, I have to get the house so perfect that I don't have time to do a really meaningful bedtime time with my kids, whether that's having a little talk with them, spending some one-on-one time with them at bedtime, or stories at bedtime, or whatever, then you have to choose where you want the perfection to be.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, or stay up a little bit later. Would you want to stay up a little later with your kids and do that and have a little later bedtime, and maybe give up like, I don't know, evening reading time or TV time or whatever?
Whatever you do. Yeah.
Something. Is that what you want to sacrifice? And just make sure that you own it so that you don't feel bad about it. You don't feel, because that's when you won't feel satisfied and content and fulfilled in your life. And in order to be fulfilled, you have to really identify those areas and focus on them and own them, so that you're able to like, and be able to experience perfectionism in spots where you want it.
Right.
You see it and you're like, oh, look at how wonderful I am at doing this.
Yeah. And whatever you can do to not be beating yourself up.
Yes, 100%. Because Steph's a perfectionist in a lot of areas, and she's well experienced in the self-beating up.
Yeah.
Because of perfectionism. But
yes.
Anyway, thank you for joining us here.
Yeah.
On the Focused and Fulfilled podcast with the Busy Boss Mamas, Crystal Borgeson and Stephanie Mitchell.
And we'll see you guys next time.